Good morning. How are you guys? Uh, that was pretty interesting, what I just observed. That was attendance. I swear every time I go on college campus, it ages me. We didn't take attendance like that. Yeah. I don't know if you guys even just want to pass those. Those are just little cards we hand out. Um, well, thanks for having me. Um, I'm happy to be here and share the story of John Tom's barbecue. Uh, I'm gonna, while I got your attention right out the gate, I'm gonna give you a life nugget, which will be a good segue into my speech. Um, I remember being younger and especially at your age in college and attending Indiana University, and when I thought about life and my future, I always thought life and happiness was a target, right? There is a target. So, if I graduate and I get a job in my career and I become a broadcaster and I work my way up to network, that's happiness. That's where happiness is. And honestly, it wasn't until probably about 10 years ago, just on my life journey, that I really learned and understood that it isn't about a target, right? It's great to have goals and it's great to have an end point where you're trying to get. But what I realized about life is that it's really all about the journey, right? So if we put those targets out there or those places we're trying to go, it's really about your journey trying to get to that target. And the older I got, I started also figuring out that just because I planned to have a target, this place that I was trying to meet, where I thought happiness lied, that target kept moving, right? So it's great to have a plan. It's great to say I'm going to get here, but also understand that that target can move on you. And don't waste time not enjoying the journey, because that's that's where life is. It's just enjoying the journey, the good and the bad, right? And so I'm going to take you on my journey, because at your age, and I'm sitting in these lecture chairs, and I probably would have been sitting in a journalism class, because my dream was to be a broadcast journalist. And what I had an idea about is, making network. That was my target, right? So I'm going to start with, who is John Tom? Is it fictional, or is that a real person? John Tom is a real person. That is my grandpa. And I'm just going to share a few things about why my grandpa was very instrumental in my life. And then I'm going to work it up to why I'm standing in front of you today. Okay? So, this is is it intro to entrepreneurship? All right. So, you're here, so I would assume that you're interested in entrepreneurship. Being an entrepreneur was never on my radar. But as I look back on my life, I was an entrepreneur. I tell you what my first gig was that I came up with. I was in 7th grade. I'm from Muncie, so I was attending Wilson Middle School. And I grew up with just my mom, my mom, my sister. Um, my mom, very hard worker. She worked a minimum wage job. So we had what we needed, didn't necessarily always have what we wanted, but she was a great provider. But I was getting around the age where I wanted things, right? And I knew my mom didn't have the extra money to give me. So I was like, well, I can come up with ways to make money. So that's the time when Michael Jordan was everything. I wasn't a Michael Jordan fan personally. I was a Magic Johnson fan. Always had been, always will be. But I knew that mostly everyone loved Michael Jordan. So I obtained, I don't know where I got it from, but this huge, uh, like a $50 bill. It's about this big. I came up with the idea, I'm going to take the president out of that, and I'm going to take Michael Jordan's picture in there, and I'm going to make copies, cut them out, and sell them for $1. Came up with that idea. I didn't know if it would sell. So I was pretty cool with our principal. He liked me. So I went to him, Mr. Showalter, can I run some copies off? Yeah, go ahead. So I ran off about 20 copies, cut them out, start asking, hey, want to buy one of these? They start selling. I'm like, I got a business, you know? So all I was concerned about is putting a little money in my pocket, right? Well, those kind of played out probably about after a few days. Nobody wanted to buy them anymore. So then it's like, man, I got to come up with a new hustle. So we always had, every week, some organization was selling candy. And I'm sitting here watching these people sell candy, and they would just sell out that same day. So I'm like, candy. So in my neighborhood, I lived in the Whiteley area of Muncie, we had a penny candy store. So y'all don't even know what that is, do y'all? You know, y'all don't know what penny candy stores are. So, little convenience store. When you go in and there's this massive glass case and there's dozens of variety of candies, and they all cost a penny. Then you have some suckers cost a dime and gumballs cost. So we had one in our neighborhood where we had quite a few. So I noticed that these charm suckers, they had the solid colors and then they had the ones with like the little cream in it. And you could get those for a dime at the penny candy store. So I went in, I probably had $1. So I bought like 10 suckers. I didn't know anything about markup, but I knew I had to sell these suckers for more than I paid to make a profit. So I said, well, I think I can get $0.25 for these suckers. So I go to school. My first period, I sell those 10 suckers like that. My cousin is seeing what I'm doing. He was like, I'm about to do the same thing. So he goes and he buys a box of charm suckers. Only he bought just the flavor was just one flavor. He didn't have the cream in the middle like I had. And so we're both trying to sell these suckers. His not selling. They wanted mine. I'm like, yeah, they like these cream suckers better than they do those. So, end of school, I go to the penny candy store. This time, I'm gonna buy 20 suckers. I go to school the next day, sell out. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the penny candy store. I'm gonna buy 30 suckers. I had a full operation going. To the point, we were about to take a standardized test. I think it was the I-STEP test. And we're all in the cafeteria. And I have a huge crowd around my table, and I mean, I'm slanging suckers left and right. And Mr. Contangerite, who was a counselor, he comes up, hey, give me those. And I'm like, oh, I'm in trouble. So he takes my bag of suckers. He said, come see me after this test. So, oh man, I'm gonna get a paddle. So I go up, I walk in, and I'm like, oh, what are you about to say to me? He just opened his drawer, reached in and said, hey, here you go. Just don't sell those during tests. And that was it. I later found out Mr. Contangerite was an entrepreneur on the side. He owned a restaurant called Tony's Locker Room right here. You remember Tony's Locker Room? He owned Tony's Locker Room, which was huge in Muncie back in like the 80s. And it sat right by the football stadium where that old pizza place is at Gino's or something, but it went out of business. That was Tony's Locker Room. And I later understood that he saw something in me. He saw an entrepreneur, even though I didn't know what an entrepreneur was. I was just trying to make money so I can buy me some shirts and stuff, right? So that's kind of setting the pace for why I'm standing here today. Because honestly, I was an entrepreneur at heart, right? John Tom, that's my grandpa. I grew up with my grandpa because my mom and dad were never married, and my dad moved to California when I was like 3 years old, and he lived there up until I was probably about 14 or 15. So my grandpa, his dad, was like my dad. I did everything with my grandpa. My grandpa was a very hard worker. He was from Mississippi. They all migrated up north during the Great Migration to seek jobs. They found great automotive jobs here in Muncie, and this is where he settled to raise his family. My grandpa had probably 4 gardens scattered around Muncie, little plots of land where he had gardens. So on the weekends, he'd get me up, I hated it, take me to the gardens, I'm pulling weeds, or I'm picking tomatoes, or I'm picking beans. But that's what I did with my grandpa. My grandpa was the biggest barbecue head I knew. He had developed this passion for barbecue when he was in Mississippi. So when I grew up in that culture. And I often say, you have family, anybody here grow up playing sports, or were you in like club sports? Okay. So you know how dedicated you are to that. You know, if you play volleyball and you're playing club volleyball, then you're probably playing volleyball around. So I say there are soccer families, there are, volleyball families. I grew up in a barbecue family, right? In the days before barbecue was so popular as it is now. But that was the culture that I grew up in. My grandpa had developed a barbecue sauce, I believe before I was born, because I always, as young as I remember, he always had this barbecue sauce that he would cook. And because I spent a lot of time with my grandpa, I went to the stores with him when he'd go buy the ingredients. I stood by him while he was preparing the ingredients in the kitchen. He'd tell me, hey, go stir the sauce so it doesn't burn. So I was always with him. And this was kind of being instilled in me, unbeknownst to me, right? So I grew up in this barbecue culture. My grandpa, after he had retired from the foundry, he had a slab of concrete poured on the side of his old house. And that slab of concrete was preparations for what he was about to build next. And I remember being a kid and watching my grandpa and some of his friends build this humongous barbecue smoker brick by brick. And his plans were, because he would sell barbecue dinners on the weekend, there's a little hustler entrepreneur in him, right? And he built this humongous barbecue pit that was going to allow him to cook more meat more efficiently, so that he can sell dinners. But after he retired, he was going to open a barbecue restaurant. And I remember the summer where he was looking for a place to have his business. He had asked my mom if she would work for him part-time. Like, he was really in the planning stages. I was 11 at the time. And I was staying with him that summer because my grandma had gone out to LA and to see my dad. And so I was spending the night with my grandpa, spending a significant amount of time with him. And on this particular day, it was a Saturday, my great uncle, his brother, he owned our family church, and it was right around the corner from where my grandpa lived. And we were having a chicken dinner. We were selling chicken dinners that day as a fundraiser for the church. And I wanted to go help. So I told my grandpa, hey, I'm going to go around to the church. I know you're about to leave, so I'll either be there or I'll come back home. He said, okay. And those were the last words I spoke to my grandpa. So I went to the church. Probably about an hour later, my cousin come up and she's hugging me and crying, and I'm like, what is going on? She puts me in the church van and drives me around to my grandpa's house, and I see a number of cars. And I gathered that something was wrong. Well, my grandpa had passed away. He had a heart attack on his way up the steps back home. What we didn't realize until after his death, he didn't write that recipe down. It was gone. And that was a big deal in my family because, like I said, we grew up in a barbecue culture. So not to have daddy's barbecue sauce, we were like, it's gone, right? Fast forward, I'm in college. I'm going to IU. I'm majoring in broadcast journalism. I'm going to be a broadcaster, and I'm going to work my way up to CNN or whatever. One random weekend, I was going to grill some meat. And something popped in my head. Try to make your granddad's barbecue sauce. I don't know why. It just popped in my head. So, okay, I'll respond to that. So I write down everything. I read down the ingredients because I remember the ingredients. Okay, I got this. Let me call my auntie. Hey, auntie, guess what I'm about to do? What? I call my grandpa daddy. That's how close I was. I'm about to try to make daddy sauce. Oh, really? Yeah, here's the ingredients I have. What am I missing? Oh, you're missing this. He put this in it. Okay, let me write that down. Okay, I'm gonna let you know how this goes. She was all right, good luck. Go to the store, I buy all the ingredients, come home, I get the pot out. I have no formula. I just have ingredients. I start throwing everything in a pot, stirring it. It's smelling pretty good. Get done, let it cool off. My wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, was like, hey, need you to taste something. So we tasted. I tasted first. I was in denial because it wasn't that good. It really wasn't. And I had my girlfriend taste it, and she's like, it's okay. It's okay. Be honest with me. She said, that's disgusting. So I said, okay, maybe I just need to just sit it in the cabinet, just let it sit. Maybe it just needs to marinate, a little bit, and then it tastes better. Anyway, I walk away from it. I don't think about it again, right? Go on. I graduate from IU. I land my first job as a broadcaster in Quincy, Illinois. So my girlfriend and I at the time, we had a son, and we pick up and we moved to Quincy, Illinois. And I start my broadcasting career as a weekday reporter, weekend anchor. This is what I wanted to do, right? Something popped in my head again. Try to make that barbecue sauce again. So now I'm finding myself getting up on weekends trying to crack the code on my grandpa's barbecue sauce. And I'm writing every time I do it, I'm writing every batch down. I still have this notepad to this day. I forget what batch number I got up to. But anyway, weekends, I'm just trying to make sauce, right? This turned into a 5-year obsession of mine. Just because I wanted to crack this code on his sauce. Well, what really happened was I kind of went off-roading because I wasn't quite getting his, but I was on to something. So I said, I'm going to stick to this and not necessarily try to make my grandpa's, but whatever this is that I'm doing, I'm liking. So I'm gonna stay on track with that. So when I finally developed this formula that I liked, I was like, I need some honest opinions about this. Like, I want to know what people really think about it. So I throw a barbecue. I invite all my coworkers from the news station over. Hey, I'm grilling some meat this weekend. Why don't you come over? So it's a house full of people. I set this ball jar of barbecue sauce on the table with a big spoon in it. And I say, hey, go at it. So did I fix me a plate? No. I grabbed me a seat and I sat in the corner and I waited. Because I didn't want to say, hey, I created that barbecue sauce. Try it. Tell me what you think. I wanted somebody to speak up, right? Unprompted. So I'm sitting and I'm waiting and I'm like, God, is somebody going to say something? So there's this intern. She's a Northwestern intern. Her name was Sumi Somaskanda. Sumi was a vegetarian. So Sumi had a plate with plain potato chips and my sauce. And she's just dipping and eating. Sumi spoke up. Lathay, what kind of barbecue sauce is this? This is like the best sauce I've ever tasted. What is this? Where can I get it? I ain't say anything. So other people start chiming in. Yeah, what? Because it's not in a bottle. What is this? Like, where can I get this? So I said, okay, I'm gonna let you guys in on something. I invited you over here, not necessarily because I like you. I invited you over here because that's my barbecue sauce I created. They didn't believe me. They didn't believe me. I said, no, seriously. Babe, tell him. She was like, he created that. And so the reaction from the crowd was like, dude, you have to do something with this one day. I'm like, do what with it? What could I do with it? I'm a broadcaster. I'm already doing what I want to do. That's just something just a hobby, right? So I get a job in Milwaukee. By this time, my fiance, we're married now. Now we got 2 kids. So we moved to Milwaukee. I moved on to a better job, bigger market, more money, living the dream. So with the barbecue sauce, I was like, well, I love hot stuff. So I'm gonna take what I created, kind of tweak it, and add some heat to it. That's gonna be for me, that's what I like. And so I did that, which was easy, right? And so I was like, that's good. Need a name for it. I called it Sneaky Hot. Why? Because my grandpa had a version that he called Sneaky Hot. So the name was easy. So I was like, that's my Sneaky Hot. So, I don't know why, but the more and more I let people taste this sauce, the more they were putting in my head that you need to do something with this. So now I'm like, well, what can I do with it? So now I'm researching. Okay, where do you get bottles? Where do you buy bottles? Where do you buy caps? Where do you buy shrink bands? Most importantly, where could I make this where it's safe and legal for me to sell it to the man? I'm doing all this research just because. So I'm two years into my job out in Milwaukee, and there's rumors flying. There's some changes coming. We don't know what those changes are, but there's something about to happen. And I'll never forget this day. Our general manager walked into the newsroom, and we all froze because our general manager never came to our newsroom. So when he walked in, we were like, oh, shoot. Something's about to happen. So he gets up there and he says, look, I'm going to be very direct with you. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I know there's rumors been flying. We're shutting down operations. March 30th is your last day here. Now, this is the first time I've lost a job, right? I'm terrified. I have a wife. I have 2 small children, and you're telling me I don't have a job. To be honest, at that time, I had kind of gotten burnout on television news. And so now I'm like, what's next? The barbecue sauce is going through my head. Can I do something with this really? So I'm flirting with this idea, and this is weeks. Weeks go by, and I'm like, okay, so I'm really doing my research now. So I had decided, here's what I want to do next. I want to move back to my hometown, Muncie, Indiana, and I want to start this barbecue sauce business because if I don't do it now, I'm going to be pissed at myself down the road because I didn't at least try it. So, okay, that's my plan. Guess who I got to pass this by? My wife. My wife had gone through nursing school. She was working at a hospital. She had not taken her board yet, but she was working at a hospital. And so I go to her and I say, hey, I'm gonna run something by you. What if we move back home, move in with my mom, and I start a barbecue sauce business? What do you think her reaction was? I thought she was gonna say some choice words to me. She, with no hesitation, said, let's do it. Are you serious? She was like, let's do it. So once I got her blessing, now I'm full throttle. Like, I gotta figure this out. So my cousin called me one night. This is my first cousin. We share the same grandpa. He's in Florida. He's living in Orlando. He graduated from IU with a marketing degree. So he's out there working for this firm. So he calls me and just checking on me. I said, cuz, here's what I'm about to do. So I tell him. He said, you serious? I said, yeah. He said, do you need help? I said, yes, I do. He said, okay, the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna work on the logo, because I had created a logo I was pretty proud of, but it was horrible. So he said, I'm gonna work on this logo. So over the next couple weeks, we're just going at it. Like, how are we gonna do this business? What is it gonna take? And so I said, if we're really gonna do this, there's one more person I wanna add to the mix. And that was our third partner. His name is Rodney. And Rodney was my best friend. I met him at IU. We pledged together. We worked for our fraternity. I was president. He was vice president. I knew Rodney's work ethic. And Rodney he had a business degree. He was IT. So he had that going for him. So I called Rodney. I said, don't think I'm crazy, but this is what I'm about to do. I want to know if you want to be a part. So he was like, barbecue? What? Barbecue sauce? I'm like, yeah. I got a pretty good barbecue sauce, and people are telling me to do something with it. Okay, well, I'm not going to sign up for something I haven't tasted, so bring some to Miami with you. So the fraternity brothers and I, we were working on our 10-year anniversary, and we were going to meet in Miami. And that was in like the next month that I talked to Rodney. He said, bring some of that with you. So this is back in the day when you can take a ball jar of barbecue sauce, put it on your carry-on, and take it on the plane. Right? It's back in those days. So I take this jar of barbecue sauce to Miami with me. And one day, I think it was like 7 of us there, and we're all gathered in one room and, just hanging out. And I go to my bag and pull this jar out. It's like, what is that? I'm like, here, it's barbecue sauce, try it. So somebody opened it, and everyone starts digging their fingers in it and tasting it. And I noticed Rodney is doing the same thing I did when I invited my coworkers over. He's standing over there like this. He's just watching the reactions. And he finally steps up and was like, let me taste that. So he sticks his finger in there and puts it in his mouth. And he steps up to me and was like, hey, I'm in. That easy. So now we got our team, the 3 of us, right? My last day of work at the news station was March 30th. Okay? I had already made provisions for us to move. We're going to pack our stuff up, and we're moving back to Muncie. I'm going to move my family in with my mother. We had decided we need some way to introduce our sauce to a large group of people and get their reactions so we can see if we really have a product that is marketable. So we chose the Indiana Black Expo in Indianapolis, which is huge. The Indiana Black Expo was like July 7th. Okay, so March 30th, July 7th, we got to put a business together. And I mean from scratch. So I found a place that they call them shared kitchens now. Back then, and this is in 2006. Back then, there weren't a lot of shared kitchens that existed. Well, I found one in Madison, Indiana. I was like, dude, they will show us how to produce our sauce in a larger quantity. They're FDA approved, so if we make it in their facility, we can sell it. So we find this place. Then I find a bottle company in Milwaukee. I know where to get our glass bottles from. I found a place. Then we find a place to get our shrink bands that go around the top of the bottle. So we're finding all this stuff. We're getting banners made, we're getting shirts made, gotten incorporated. Like we got a website design. I mean, we're hustling, right? Just pouring our own money into this. By the time we're ready for this Indiana Black Expo, our presentation is on point, right? I mean, people are coming up to us thinking we're there working for this large company. By that Sunday, because the event was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, by that Sunday, mid-morning, we had sold every bottle except one flavor each that we were holding on to for ourselves. We had sold every bottle, and we had probably about 5 people at our table asking us to auction our last 2 bottles off. I said, guys, we got a product, and it will sell, right? So that was our test market. Now at this time, both of my partners, they're still working in their careers. I'm not. I'm solely focused on this business. I had, got a little severance package and all that from my job, so I was okay for a little bit, probably about a year, and I was like, okay, I need to find a job. So let me share some emotions behind this, because I'm just kind of giving you the nuggets of how this worked. But when I finally realized that this was really happening and I'm going to move my family to Muncie and move in with my mother and start this business, it was exciting, but it was the scariest thing I had ever come up with for myself, right? So we move in with my mom, we start this business, we do the Indiana Black Expo, we know we have a product that would sell. Now what? Where do we sell it? You just can't walk in the grocery store and say, hey, I got barbecue sauce. Can you put this on the shelf? So we're trunk hustling, as we call it. We're just selling sauce out of our car, $5 a bottle to whoever would buy it. That first year, we realized that this is gonna be hard, right? Because not only do we have to pick up and buy all of our ingredients, buy bottles, all this, go to Madison, make the sauce, which was an all-day affair, come back, and we got to the point where we come back and we'd sell out in about 2 weeks. Now we got to do that process all over again, right? So that first year, we start realizing and I'm starting to run out of money. This is when things got very real for me. What have I done to my family? I had made it. I was a TV reporter. I was making good money. What have I done? My severance is gone. I have no money. And I remember sitting in my mom's recliner one night, and I'm watching my kids on the floor play. And I'm like, Lathay, you have absolutely destroyed your family's life. Here you went and you started this business, and while it was exciting and all that at first, now you realize we don't have a food background. We don't know how to market this. We don't know anything. All we have right now is a good sauce. That's it. And I'm sitting there watching my kids, and the tears just start rolling. Because I'm like, I have destroyed our lives. So I went in the bathroom, and I sat there, and I let it out. I just start crying. And I said, tomorrow, I'm going to get up, first thing in the morning, and I'm going to find me a job. I don't care if it's McDonald's. I don't care if it's Rally's. I don't care if it's Burger. I don't care. My thought was, I'm going to walk into probably the easiest place to walk into a job, and I'm taking it if they offer it to me. Imagine college educated. I've worked 7 years on TV, and here I am making a decision to go get a fast food job to provide for my family. I felt the lowest I have ever felt in my life. It was horrible. But I put my pride to the side and was like, I got to do it. So I got up that morning. I was going to hit Madison. I said, I'm going to stop at Rally's, McDonald's, and just work my way. I had got to McDonald's, and something said, just go to the Star Press first. Go to the Star Press newspaper. Start there. I listened. So I go to the Star Press. I go in, go to receptionist, and I said, hey, can you check and see if the editor's in the Star Press? She called up. He's not in. You want me to take a message? Yeah. Lathay, Pegues, here's my number. Can you tell him to call me? Yeah. So I'm about to walk out. There's this guy walking in. She said, wait, he works at the paper. Maybe he can help you. Guy walks over. Yeah, what do you need? I said, hey, man, I'm from Muncie. I moved away, went to college, was a broadcaster, recently moved back. Just sticking my head in here, man, to see, what you guys might have. He was like, look, I have no say in anything. I'm just an employee. He said, but come up with me. Let's go upstairs and talk. So we go in this boardroom. He said, tell me about yourself. And I tell him, and he said, man, we just start getting into video, online video. And I'm going to be honest with you, we don't know what the hell we're doing. And I was like, I'm your guy. He was like, I don't make any decisions, like I told you. I was like, okay. He said, but what I'm going to do is when our editor gets back, I'm going to make a beeline to him and tell him about you. Okay, appreciate it. So I walked out of there, and I'm like, okay, that was a little promising, right? So let me hold off from the Burger King and McDonald's. Let me just see what happens here. I ended up getting a call from the editor. And to make a long story short, had a couple interviews, told him what I did. I get hired. So now I'm working at a newspaper doing our online content. Now I got some money, but now I'm in a very, a job that took a lot of my time, okay? It's a very demanding job. So what happened to John Toms? It's on the back burner, right? My partners and I, though, we paid enough attention to it that we were getting little wins here and there, right? That kind of kept us engaged. Like, we just totally couldn't walk away from it. So now we're selling more sauce to family and friends, and we had got a little billiards place in Indianapolis that was like, I'll use your sauce in the kitchen. And so we're getting little wins like that. Didn't amount to much at all, but it's keeping us engaged, right? I had started contacting the executive chef here at Ball State to the point we were on first name basis. He knew who I was. I'm trying to sell him on my sauce, right? And this relationship goes on for like 3 years. So I'm working for the paper. I'm there 7 years. They call us in for a meeting, another BS meeting, where they tell us, got some exciting news for you guys. We're about to restructure. Some of you guys have been, you want to work different beats, and well, here's your opportunity. Everybody's got to reapply for a job, though. So, okay, I see what this is. So I'm sitting in that meeting, and when they said that, I tuned out. What are you going to do, Lathay? What are you going to do? Here I am again at that crossroads with what are you going to do with your life? I must be crazy because I decided I'm about to walk away from my career for good, and I'm going in full-time for John Toms. That's what I'm about to do. After everything I already went through, all the emotions, and I messed my family up, I decided again, I'm about to walk away from my career. And I did. put my 2 weeks in. Now, moving back home was scary. This was scarier. Because now, after 14 years in the business, I'm walking away from good. And I'm about to sink or swim. I don't know how this is about to go. So, the first task that I made for myself was I got to land some kind of significant account to make me feel better about what I just did. So I'm on the horn. I wake up early and I'm on the horn. Called the executive chef here at Ball State. I said, Lucas, man, let me talk to you. Get me in, man. How can you get me in? He said, Lathay, I'm gonna tell you why we can't get you into Ball State. You don't have a distributor. And we order all of our stuff from distributors. Ball State is not about to make a separate account just to buy your barbecue sauce. So I pulled out the violins with what my partners say I do. They say I'm very compelling at selling a story, right? So I said, Lucas, I understand that, but I wish you guys were kind of set up to where maybe 95% of your business came from a distributor, but you left 5% for guys like me who just trying to get their foot in the door. Well, I guess my story was very compelling, and Lucas said, Lathay, I'm gonna call you back. I got something in my mind. I'm gonna call you back. I'm like, yeah, right, he's not gonna call me back. Lucas calls me back in an hour. He said, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna contact one of our distributors. I'm gonna tell them about your sauce and that we want it. And if they will pick you up as a vendor, we'll promise to buy so many cases from them a year. Okay. He said, I'll call you back. Another hour goes by, he calls me back. Hey, just talked to the distributor, Piazza Produce. A guy named Marcus Agresta is gonna call you, and they're on board. What? They're on board. Okay. So be waiting for Marcus to call you. Okay. I hang up. Tears. I didn't know what to say. I'm walking through and I was home by myself, and I'm walking through the house like, yes, yes, yes. Because I knew that account was going to translate into something. So Marcus calls me. Hey, this is Marcus, real loud dude. This is Marcus from Piazza Produce. Heard about your sauce. Yeah, we're gonna onboard you and we're gonna bring you in. Thank you. Thank you. Because I needed that to validate the decision I had made to walk away from my career. That's all the validation I needed. I was like, it's on now. It's on. We got a distributor. Still, money was tight because we got a distributor, and our only account now is going to be Ball State, right? That doesn't translate into a whole lot of money, but we're grateful. I need a job. Again, I need a job. So I knew this guy named Dave. He owns the downtown farm stand. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, the organic grocery store downtown. Go to Dave, and it's like, Dave, I need a job. What can I do for you? He was like, oh my God, Lathay, you're like way overqualified. And I'm just thinking all the things that we can do. I'm just like, dude, hire me. I need a job and take care of my family. So Dave hires me. I'm cooking, I'm mopping, I'm sweeping, I'm ringing up groceries, and my ego is getting the best of me. And I'm like, Lathay, you've done it again. You've done it again. But I keep working because I need that check. people are coming into the grocery stores like, aren't you Lathay Pegues? Yeah. What are you doing working here? Earning a living. Right? That's entrepreneurship. When you're willing to risk it all because you believe in something so strongly, and then you're willing to do what you need to do until you can get to the level you're trying to reach. That's entrepreneurship. So I'm working at this grocery store. I'm there about a year. And without going too much into it, I left the job and kind of ended on bad terms. So I'm unemployed again. Which is my motivation to get your behind out there and start getting these accounts. You have a distributor. So I go at it. Now we're starting to get an account here, an account there, account over here. Now we're starting to see our revenue build a little bit, right? But I need a job. I go to my partners and I said, look, let's figure this out. I'm not going to work for anybody else. I need to put all of my attention and focus on John Tom's Barbecue. How much can we afford to pay me? Let's figure this out. We figured it out. We came up with a salary. Wasn't much at all. But I was like, I'm gonna make this work. I have not gone to another job since. I've been working for John Tom's fully since 2015. My heart had to be in it. The passion had to be there. Because if it wasn't, I don't know how that would have gone. The nights I can't sleep, I'm looking at the ceiling like, how am I going to pay mortgage tomorrow? I don't know. How am I going to pay this gas bill? My kids need stuff for school. How am I going to pay that? How am I going to supply that? I don't know. That's entrepreneurship. Not to scare you, but to be real. That's how my journey has gone. You cannot imagine how many times I have wanted to walk away and just say, don't look back. Go find a 9-to-5 like everybody else. You'll know when you're getting paid. You'll have your insurance intact. Just go do it. That's what everybody's doing. You got to be crazy to stay in this stuff, right? My partners and I have had some real coming to Jesus conversations. And every time out of those conversations, we hit a new height. We got invited. This was pre-COVID. This was probably like 2019, maybe. We got invited to Notre Dame to speak at this ACF meeting, American Culinary Federation, which is just an organization of like chefs and grocery store owners and people who are in the industry. They meet. We had met a chef at Notre Dame, and the chef was like, you guys' story is crazy. Like, can I invite you down and you guys come speak at the ACF meeting? We're like, yeah. Because our motto is, if we can be there, be there. You never know who's going to be in the audience. You never know who you're going to meet. So we go down. I get up. I'm doing what I'm doing now. I'm telling my story. They cook some food with our barbecue sauce. And after this meeting, this guy approaches us. And he says, hey, my name is Chef Tim. I work for Levy Restaurant Group, but Notre Dame is our client. He said, so we do the football, we cook all the food for the football games, basketball games, hockey games. We do all that. He said, I just got here, but I love your story and I love your product. He said, let me get acclimated and I'll be in touch. Yeah, right. Okay. Kept his word. So he contacted us probably a year later. Hey, we're gonna bring you guys into Notre Dame. What? We're gonna bring you into Notre Dame. So, leaving a lot of details out, Levy got us on board, right? Because of these types of relationships and us just meeting people, we are in Ball State dining, we're in Indiana University dining, we're in Indiana State dining, we're in Notre Dame uh, athletics, we're in Purdue athletics, we're at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Our big account that we just landed last August, no, it would have been June, Lucas Oil Stadium. We just landed an account last Thursday with Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I mean, not Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but Indianapolis Convention Center. The universe just opened up to us. And I have to believe it's because I've stayed true and I've stayed the course. And all of these relationships that we have built, you plant those seeds and you never know when they're going to sprout. And what's happening to us now is just a result of all the seeds we've planted over the years and just waited for them to sprout. So I know I can talk about this all day, but I know we're about time up. So I do want to leave some time for people to ask questions if you have any. So I'll end it right there. But if anyone has, if you don't have questions, I'll keep talking. But if you have questions, I will take some. Yes.
Did you ever figure out if your sauce was the same as your father's?
It wasn't. Remember I said that I kind of went off road. I was onto something, so I stopped trying to mimic his and just stayed where I was. So no, it's not his sauce, but because he's the inspiration behind it, I put his name on it. Yeah.
This is kind of a two-parter. I actually got some of your barbecue sauce in like a silent auction, and my dad is a huge smoker. He uses his Traeger religiously, and he loves it.
Awesome.
But your spicy one is so hot. It is so good though.
It's kind of spicy.
The next one is, how do you deal with such a niche market? Because I own a boutique, but it's geared towards a very small market, very similar to yourself. So how do you kind of break those barriers and branch out?
That's a great question. So we're in a very oversaturated market. We have a Me Too product, right? Everyone has a barbecue sauce, to the point we've had some opportunities go away because they're like, another barbecue. Do you have anything else? Right? Very oversaturated market. So that's been one of our biggest challenges is how do we differentiate ourselves from everybody else? We don't have any ingredients that are unusual in our product. We don't have any process that is different from everyone else. So how do we stand apart? And really, we've relied on our branding. You know, it's this story, and people want to hear the story. How did you even get to this point? And every time I tell the story, I mean, chefs love us. And if you ask a chef, they'll say, well, number one, it's your taste. I mean, you guys have an excellent product. But that story behind, that's how we sold it to the convention center last week. They're like, we want to hear your story. And once we told the story, and then we left and they went and tried the product, they called us like 2 hours later and like, hey, you're in. Like, we're bringing you in. So yeah, that has been the biggest hurdle, is really just trying to figure out what makes us different in an oversaturated market. You know, and there's a few answers to that. The owners, I mean, our story, the owners, the guys behind the sauce, you know, it's a compelling story that goes together. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that that's very comparable, like your story and my story. Like a lot of the entrepreneurship office and the people who kind of helped me navigate getting me started, they really say, lean into the fact that you're a college student and this is a passion of yours, and tell your story, and the fact that you're a young female and you're passionate about this. People eat that up.
People love, that's the first thing they want to hear. Any event we set up for, the first thing they're like, where are you from? That's the first question. I'm from Muncie. Okay. What's your story? Like, I'm just standing telling my story all day because people, that's how they attach themselves to a product, right? So when they say people are buying you and not your product, not necessarily your product, that's true. They're buying you more than they're buying your product, right? So, no more questions?
When it comes down to, this is more personal, you don't have to answer, but it's more family related. When it comes down to your support system and their place within everything, besides like some of the love that they showed, what would you say were some of the hardships you kind of had to like show them, like I like truly believe in this and stuff like that? Like what are some of like those pivotal moments to have your family like?
That's a great question. That's a great question because I'm gonna be honest with you. I think my family thought I was nuts. Seriously, no. I think they were like, "What is he doing?" Right? And especially those early years, they were like, "Dude, you're on TV. Like, what are you doing?" I'd go to my mom's house. I'd go to my mother-in-law's house, and I'd be like, "Really? Sweet baby Ray, I have a sauce." And really, that let me know that, I don't want to say they didn't believe in me, but it wasn't a reality to them. Like, I have your son. I have a sauce that I'm marketing, not on a large level, but you don't call me to say, hey, bring me a bottle of sauce. You still go buy this? Like, and it hurt, I'm just like, my partners and I just had this conversation the other day when we were just reflecting on, man, look where we are. And we talked about, I said, we had to prove ourselves, right? And once we start getting accounts, got the Ball State account, we have placement at Kroger, we have placement at Marsh. Once those things start happening, that's when the family was like, oh, okay, they're really doing this. Well, now they're at the point where, they're proud. I mean, but it was a process to get them to really believe in what we were doing, right? And that's a great question, man, because I think, like I said, my family was just questioning, like, what is he really doing? Like, he really moved back here, and I don't think they thought I think they thought it was a pipe dream. Like, this is nothing that's really going to turn into anything. But now, I mean, they're our biggest ambassadors because they believe in what we're doing, and they see that, these guys are really moving.
How did you stay positive throughout all of that?
Man, thick skin. And two, I'm one of those people, and I've always had it. It's like, if you doubt me, I got to prove it to you. And I was small growing up. I didn't start growing until I was like a sophomore. I always had to prove myself on the basketball court, and I hated being looked at like that. So if you doubted me, okay, got you. I got you. And that's what it was. I took it as motivation, like, oh, y'all don't think I'm gonna do this? Okay. So.
One question back here.
Did you already have connections before going into it, or did you kind of go into it blindsided
Zero.
and just kind of find them?
Zero connections. All we had was a sauce. That's it. And not only did we not have connections, we didn't have any know-how. We didn't know what we were doing. I kind of didn't. I wrote down a few failures and like things that happened to us. I don't want to call them failures, but just bad experiences that we, when our first time around with Marsh and Kroger, I'll never forget. We didn't have sauce in our possession. By this time, we had we found a co-packer that was making our sauce for us, right? And we didn't have sauce at the time. We didn't have money to get sauce or whatever. Memorial Day rolled around, and we didn't have any sauce on the shelf. We didn't know that was important. We didn't know grocery stores hate empty spaces, or if you don't have especially barbecue sauce on Memorial Day, if you don't have barbecue sauce in here, like they were hot at us. And I remember going to Marsh when we finally got product to go replenish. They were like, man, we don't carry you anymore. And we had this handmade wooden shelving unit that we had built, and we had like this spray painting guy. It was the bottles, and then we cut it out. It was on wood, cut it out, and then my father-in-law, he made this shelving unit, and we had that in Marsh. The thing was heavy, put it on wheels and everything. So once they told me they kicked us out the system, I was like, okay, where's my cart? They were like, we threw that out. So it's like we didn't have industry knowledge. We didn't know how important it was, and so that was a huge error on our part. And I walked away from that like, well, we'll never get into Marsh again. Well, we got in Marsh again. A few years later, I found out that they had on Wednesdays, you can walk in and you can pitch your sauce. I went in there and pitched it like we'd never been in there, and walked away with like 40-something stores. And we were with them and doing well until Marsh went out, right? Kind of the same thing happened with Kroger our first time around. And this was early in the process. We didn't know what we were doing. Kroger did the same thing. It's like, yeah, you guys you can't handle this. And then second time around with Kroger, now we're in like 45 Kroger stores. So we learned we never made the same mistake again, right? So, yeah. I thought I saw somebody's hand up in the back.
Any other questions? No? Well, thank you all for your time. Let's thank Lathay.
Thank you, guys.